Hey everybody, Road West, day 2 coming at you. Hope everybody's doing good. Pray God's blessings and will over your life and that you're having a day of ease. And if you're not, hey, just come back into the moment. Get out of the stress of the future and the worrying about that. Get out of the grief of the past, realizing it's just a learning curve. You can't do nothing about that but grow from it and be in the moment where God has put things in front of you that if you open your eyes, you look around a little bit, you're going to see His goodness. And you're going to see He is working even the mistakes we make to our benefit and blessing. So let's get into this today. We're talking about His will, by the way. We did yesterday. Hope you guys caught that. If not, catch it so you can get the foundation of this thing. I just want to give you some practical things to make life a little bit actually easier and less stressful. You're like, man, I want it my way. I want it my will. Well, the theme of this week actually is to get out of self-centeredness. And that's the approach when I'm talking about His will, because how much does our will get in the way and starts, dictating how we do things, and we get frustrated, then we get these false expectations that are unrealistic, our emotions get in us. So let's just change our approach and perspective to life is what I hope you get out of this. So Romans 12:1. Well, let me go at it this way. I feel a little different to move on it here. Romans 12:1 through 3. You can read that on your own. I might read that depending on how much time. One thing about His will, and when we lay down our will and give it over to Him, allow to change our thinking and change our perspective, we can accept some things. One thing I've learned in my life, when I feel the most frustrated, the most angry, the most upset, is when I can't accept something because I have my own will and expectation of how I want things to go. But how many of you know in life, things don't always go your way? There's a lot of times things don't go your way. So the choice you have, and the choice I'm training myself to even be more mature in, is how do you respond to the things that didn't go your way? How do you respond to the things that you're having trouble to accept what is? And when I tell people, I'm like, man, when you can accept what is and say this is it, you can find a way to move forward, and it doesn't have to exactly stay that way. That's not the exact word I'm looking for, but one, it may not stay that way, but two, you can move forward and not get stuck in that moment. You can't change. We went through COVID-19 and had a pandemic. That we have to accept. Now, if we can finally accept that, which some people are having that hard reality, but we can accept that. We went through the pandemic, and how do we move forward now? So it's saying I can't change that. I have to accept what happened and what went through. We lost loved ones. We went through this and that. Now the reality is, let God change my mind and perspective of how to approach that thing so I can see how to move forward. So I can see that life isn't over. So I can get out of my frustration, my hurt, my anger, and I can make different decisions and better emotional decisions. Because you get in that place where that headspace you get locked into where you can't accept things, all of a sudden it gets, and your will is always in the way instead of the will of God. And you're saying the will of God was to kill all these people. No, I'm not saying that. We live in a broken world is what we live in. But to even locate God's will, because God's will take you past this, is my point. So sometimes you got to get out of your will out of the way so you can accept what happens, face reality, face yourself, and then make some quality decisions with your new perspective and how God's leading you in with His will, and move forward with life and not get stuck there, because life ain't over. Life is still going on continuously. There's still people around that need you. There's still things to enjoy in life, by the way, too. So let me read Romans 12:1. I said I might get to it. I'm going to read it, and we're going to dip here today. It says, verse 1 says, "And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all He has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, a kind He will find acceptable." I always tell people what I believe when I read that. The kind He finds acceptable is the one that is willing. It's the one that's allowed to be accepted. It's really, you accepting God and being willing to give yourself over to that. And this is truly the way to worship Him. Don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world. Let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good, pleasing, and perfect. And that was the main thing I want to emphasize. I'll get into 3 and 4 tomorrow. But some people realize, why do you have a hard time accepting it? Because you don't realize actually God's will is good, pleasing, and perfect. Our will, without God and without love, is just selfish and destructive. It just is, and we have to accept that for what it is. Our will, if it's not in line with Him and agreeable with Him and submitted to Him and His will ultimately, it just becomes self-centered and destructive. And so people have a hard time hitting that and letting go of your will to be submitted to God's will, realizing God's will has got your best interest at heart, but it sees the bigger picture. It's not just about you. Yeah, our will, you're going to say, my will has my best interest. Yeah, but your will may only have your interest, which is narrow-minded, by the way, and which can't see what's coming down the road or the pipe or how it affects other people. And it's actually very self-destructive to our own self and those around us. But when you can submit to God's will, realizing it is good, it is for the greater good, it is for your greater good, actually, and that He actually does know what He's doing, it gets a lot easier in life. So whatever it is, maybe you feel locked in today, realize maybe how much your will has gotten involved. Maybe how much you're putting your will on your spouse, your will on your kids, your will on your job, your will on your friendships, instead of going to God and saying, God, what's your will in all this? And when you do that, there's grace and there's an ease to flow with it. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. I got a lot more, but that's all the time I'm going to take today. I want these to be short, encouraging, practical tools, and then we'll come back tomorrow. All right, have a great day, everyone.